In the rush of so many people to blame AI for basically everything, we have a new iteration of one of the most heartbreaking aspects of humanity. I mean the decision by some people to end their existence. It's completely illogical, a final and permanent reaction to conditions that are temporary, and yet it often happens to people when no one they knew saw it coming. When that happens, there's a desperate grab for an easy answer, generally in the form of finding someone or something to blame. A song, a game, cyberbullying, social media, even Amazon. Now, as we've covered, there are a rash of lawsuits against companies such as OpenAI and Character.AI, alleging that these mere computer functions are responsible for the sudden demise of their loved ones. It's impossible not to sympathize with these loved ones, and unless you've been through it, you can never know how you're going to react, what or whom you're going to lash out at. But as we've said on this podcast a few times, there are limits. The Sandy Hook plaintiffs in their cases against Remington and Alex Jones, for an extreme example. The people who don't deserve such sympathy and understanding are the rest of us. Those of us who didn't know the victim should be detached and impartial and still push a narrative blaming something we don't like. And here, the narrative has become that the AI is the cause of the suicide, that it takes someone from a normal, well-adjusted person and drives them to the ultimate self-harm. And that makes no sense whatsoever. We actually know very little about what drives someone to their own death, but we do know that it isn't a single simple cause. That's why clinicians are arguing that the way we assess such risk needs to be radically altered. And as suicide rates continue to rise, it's now the third leading cause of death of those aged 15 to 29. We see more and more that relying on people to self-report that they aren't suicidal isn't enough. We need to start understanding the symptoms that lead to such a state of mind, which they call suicide crisis syndrome, or SCS. Going at least as far back as 2017, scientists have attempted to list and weigh the risk factors for SCS to arrive at a number accurately reflecting the risk in an individual patient. And even professional psychiatrists who treat their patient have trouble knowing if a patient is going to self-exit, even from one weekly session to another. A 2021 study in General Hospital Psychiatry said that half of the decedents they studied denied having SI in the week or month before their suicide. They concluded, the denial of SI among ideators, attempters, and suicide decedents is an alarmingly common occurrence. Findings support the clinical wisdom that denial of SI is, by itself, an inadequate indicator of suicide risk. Not only are there stories of psychiatrists not seeing it coming, there are stories of spouses watching their loved one go from non-suicidal to making an attempt in mere hours, giving them nothing to do but stop them and wait for things to get better. A 2022 study in the Journal of Psychiatric Research concluded, there is an urgent need for research on and implementation of a reliable risk assessment protocol that does not rely on SI disclosure. The problem is, to do that, we need a lot more information than we have, and that's where these AI chats can actually help. If we can study enough of these chats that people make during those last hours when they spiral downhill, we can get better insight into their thought processes and use them to understand SI and how to treat and even prevent it. It makes no sense to blame the AI, but one thing the AI chat does for us, it gives us insight into the person's mental progression, or regression as it may be, in the moments leading up to their suicide. Much better than we could get from a spouse or a psychiatrist. It may be the key to learning about it. It's ridiculous to blame the AI, and doing so is a narcissistic assumption that you know more than the experts. And suing AI companies doesn't help anyone except ambulance-chasing lawyers. In fact, trying to stop it will take that very data away from us, the innermost thoughts of people leading up to that final moment. They should be sharing their loved ones' chats with professional clinicians who can properly anonymize and study the data, perhaps gaining what we need to turn this trend around. No one who tries to put a stop to that should be able to claim the moral high ground.